In this week's Science Chat, we look at the role Antarctica plays in determining global climate and how New Zealand scientists are at the forefront of that research. Joining me now, Steve Pointing from Auckland University's Technology School of Applied Sciences. You're an applied scientist. So the government's unveiled a national science challenge for the Deep South. I mean, what does that entail?
Well, yeah, this is great. It's a really good initiative because what the government's done is among a number of other challenges. They've issued a clear statement about what they want to support, and this is essentially trying to link very precisely, using scientific investigation, the link between atmosphere and oceanic circulation from Antarctica and global climate, and specifically its effect and impacts on New Zealand's well-being.
Because our climate obviously is dictated a lot by Antarctica, isn't it?
Yeah, more than perhaps any other on Earth. Our climate's dominated by Antarctic systems, yes.
OK, this is going to focus on 3 areas, isn't it? What's the first one?
Yeah, there are actually more than 3 areas, but I just wanted to highlight 3 of those this morning. The first one relates really directly to climate, and that's a study headed up by Victoria University in Wellington and other collaborators, looking at the impacts of carbon dioxide levels on ice sheets. So what they're doing is trying to use, in effect, the past to predict the future by looking at historic levels.
Right.
Yeah.
Do they bore holes to see, like with the trunk of a tree, they take an ice core to see CO2 levels? Is it that kind of stuff?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, it's quite a similar process, although they'll be looking at marine sediments and rocks as well.
Okay.
And hopefully by that, finding out how ice sheets responded in the past to CO2 and in turn how they might respond in the future. OK. And now in terms of fishing and the food requirements of predators in the area, they're going to be looking at that as well. That's also crucial to New Zealand's economy. Yeah, this is critical. Fisheries in the Southern Ocean are a big deal. Gateway Antarctica at Canterbury are heading up this particular project, and this is looking at whether apex predators, that is the large mammals and fish and penguins even, whether these organisms can be used as sentinels or indicators, if you like, for wider ecosystem health there.
OK, now you mentioned dry valleys. I didn't know there were dry valleys in Antarctica. It's so cold and there's ice everywhere. And there's cutting-edge research about that. Tell me about that.
Oh, you shouldn't say that. This is my pet project.
Oh.
This is a very large study headed up by Craig Carey at Waikato University, but it's a big project involving many universities in New Zealand and beyond. But there is ice-free land in Antarctica, and New Zealand are essentially the stewards for that land. And it's one of the few pristine environments left on the planet. So this project is looking at how we can actually forecast and mitigate change in that environment.
Wow, and how important is that to understand that?
Well, it's very important, really, because the terrestrial systems in Antarctica actually are involved in what we call feedback. So the biology of these systems turn over gases and nutrients, and the turnover of those actually impacts directly climate and also things like weathering. Yeah, everything is linked. It's a very Gaia-like system, if you like. OK, so
does this put the sort of Kiwi science in terms of Antarctica at the forefront of the global research down there?
I believe so, absolutely. We have an umbrella organisation now that is heading up this, called the New Zealand Antarctic Research Institute. This is headed by Gary Wilson from Otago University. But what he's done and what this institute has done is really it's world-leading. It's changed the way that science is done by bringing people together, scientists and also people from different backgrounds in universities and Crown Research Institutes, and brought them all together to identify the most important goals and then work together as a meta team, if you like, to answer those important questions.
So for those involved in this particular area of science and research, this is very exciting.
Very exciting time and a great time for New Zealand science, yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming in this morning, Steve Pointing.
My pleasure.